Daddy, why is that lady crying? The small voice broke through the humid morning air. Garrett looked up from the toolbox in his truck bed to see his 4-year-old daughter, Rosalind, pointing toward a red sedan stopped on the shoulder, its hood propped open like a wounded bird. A woman in a black blazer stood beside it, phone pressed to her ear, her other hand covering her face. He glanced at his watch. The custody hearing was in 90 minutes. He'd been preparing for this day for 6 months, gathering every document, every character reference, every proof that he could give Rosalind the stable home she deserved. His ex-wife had left them both 2 years ago, and now she wanted Rosalind back, claiming she'd gotten her life together. The thought made his chest tight. But the woman by the car was crying. "Stay in the truck, Rosie," he said softly, then walked across the 2-lane road. The woman lowered her phone as he approached, quickly wiping her eyes. Up close, he could see she was younger than him, maybe late 20s, with tired eyes that held something heavy. "Morning," Garrett said gently. "I'm a mechanic. Well, I run a small garage in town. You need help?" She hesitated, then nodded. "It just died. I have somewhere I absolutely have to be, and I can't miss it." Her voice cracked slightly. "I called 2 tow services. No one can come for hours." Garrett peered under the hood, his practiced eyes scanning the engine. He touched a few connections, checked the battery terminals. "Your alternator belt snapped. It's an easy fix if you have the part, but without it," he straightened. "Where do you need to be?" "The courthouse. Downtown." She checked her watch, anxiety flashing across her face. I have something important there." He knew that courthouse well. He'd be there himself soon. "I have a belt in my truck that might fit. Let me check." "I can pay you," she said quickly, "whatever it costs." Garrett shook his head, already walking back to his vehicle. "Let's just get you moving first." Rosalind watched from the window, her stuffed rabbit pressed against the glass. She had his late mother's eyes, curious and kind. He grabbed his toolkit and a spare belt, praying it would work. Back at the sedan, he worked quickly, his hands steady despite the minutes ticking away. The woman stood nearby, quiet now, occasionally glancing at Rosalind in the truck. "Your daughter?" she asked softly. "Yeah, Rosalind. She's my whole world." The words came out before he could stop them, raw with the fear he'd been carrying. "I'm actually headed to the courthouse too, custody hearing." The woman went very still. "I'm sorry. That must be terrifying." "It is. Her mother left when Rosie was 2, just walked away, said she couldn't handle it. Now she wants her back, and I'm scared the court will think a single dad working 60-hour weeks isn't enough." He stopped, surprised at himself. He never talked about this, especially not to strangers. But something about this moment, broken down on a lonely road, made honesty feel natural. Sometimes the court sees things we don't expect them to see. Sometimes they see what matters most. Garrett started the engine. It turned over smoothly, and relief flooded the woman's face. "Thank you," she breathed. "Thank you so much. Please, let me pay you." "No need." He wiped his hands on a rag. "Just good luck with whatever you have at the courthouse." She looked at him for a long moment, something unreadable in her expression. "What's your name?" "Garrett Hayes." She extended her hand. "I'm Mallory." She didn't give her last name, and he didn't ask. "Drive safe, Mallory." 40 minutes later, Garrett sat in the courthouse hallway, Rosalind coloring beside him with the emergency crayons he always kept in his bag. His lawyer, an overworked public defender named Phil, reviewed papers with shaking hands. "They're bringing in Judge Brennan," Melford muttered. "She's tough but fair. Just be honest, Garrett. Show her you're present, that you're trying." The courtroom doors opened, and they filed in. His ex-wife, Vanessa, sat across the aisle with her expensive attorney, looking polished and confident. Garrett's hands trembled as he took his seat. Then the bailiff called, "All rise for the Honorable Judge Mallory Brennan." Garrett's heart stopped. The woman from the roadside walked in, black robe over her blazer, her hair now pulled back, her expression composed and professional. Her eyes met his for one brief, startled second before she took her seat. "Please be seated," she said, her voice steady. The first twist landed like a stone in his stomach. The judge he'd helped was the judge hearing his case. He felt Phil stiffen beside him, sensed the weight of the coincidence. Would she recuse herself? Would she think he'd helped her strategically? But Judge Brennan simply opened the file, her face unreadable. The hearing proceeded. Vanessa's lawyer painted Garrett as struggling, absent, overwhelmed. They brought up his long work hours, the apartment that was small, the fact that he had no family support nearby. When it was his turn to speak, Garrett's voice shook. I know I'm not perfect. I know I work too much, and our place isn't big, and sometimes I'm so tired I can barely see straight. But Rosalind is my daughter. I've been there for every nightmare, every scraped knee, every morning she wakes up and the first thing she does is smile at me, like I hung the moon. His voice broke. I don't have much, but everything I have, I give it to her. Judge Brennan listened, her pen still. Vanessa testified about her new job, her stable relationship, her therapy progress. It all sounded good, rehearsed, impressive. Then came the second twist, delivered quietly but devastatingly. Judge Brennan addressed Vanessa directly. Miss Hayes, I've reviewed the records. You left your daughter without contact for 18 months. You missed birthdays, holidays, didn't pay child support. Then 6 months ago, you filed for custody. She paused. What changed? Vanessa's lawyer started to speak, but the judge raised her hand. I'm asking Miss Hayes. Vanessa shifted. I got better. I worked on myself. I'm ready now. Your new partner recently inherited a substantial estate. You moved into a larger home. You stopped working. These changes all occurred within the same 2-month period you filed for custody. The courtroom went silent. Your Honor, Vanessa's lawyer began, I'm not finished. Judge Brennan's voice was calm but firm. Mr. Hayes has been the primary caregiver since birth. He has documentation for every medical appointment, every daycare meeting, every sacrifice. He fixed a stranger's car this morning while rushing to this hearing because that's who he is, someone who helps even when it costs him. Garrett's breath caught. She didn't have to mention this morning, but she continued. This isn't about who has the bigger house or the easier schedule. This is about who has been present, consistently, selflessly, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. She ruled in Garrett's favor, granting him full custody with supervised visitation for Vanessa. Outside the courthouse, Garrett sat on a bench, Rosalind in his lap, unable to process what had happened. When he looked up, Judge Brennan stood a few feet away, out of her robe now, just Mallory again. You didn't have to mention this morning, he said quietly. I didn't mention it to sway my decision. I mentioned it because it confirmed what the evidence already showed. You're someone who shows up even when it's inconvenient, even when you have your own crisis looming. She paused. My father lost custody of me when I was 7. He was a good man, a mechanic, actually. But the court only saw that he worked too much, that he struggled. They didn't see his heart. Garrett felt the weight of her words. I became a family court judge to see what others miss. This morning, you reminded me why that matters. You didn't know who I was, what I could do for you. You just helped because someone needed help. Thank you, Garrett whispered, for everything. She smiled, sad and genuine. Thank you for fixing my car, Mr. Hayes, and for reminding me what kindness looks like.
Months later, Garrett's garage expanded. Not because of money or luck, but because word spread about the mechanic who'd help anyone, regardless of whether they could pay. Rosalind grew, thrived, her laughter filling the small apartment that felt less small every day. One evening, as they ate dinner on the floor, because the table was covered with her drawings, Rosalind asked, Daddy, why did you stop for that lady when we were in a hurry? Garrett thought about it, about how that choice had changed everything. Because, sweetheart, kindness doesn't wait for the perfect time. It shows up exactly when it's needed most. even when it's hard? Especially then. She nodded, satisfied, and returned to her spaghetti. Garrett looked at her, at this small person who'd become his entire universe, and felt gratitude wash over him, for second chances, for unexpected grace, for the morning he chose to stop. Kindness isn't measured by what we give when we have plenty, but by what we offer when we have little to spare. In our smallest acts of grace, we often find our greatest moments of redemption, not because we're repaid, but because we remember what it means to be human. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's spread more stories of kindness and hope together.